Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ntshongwana Show. My name is Ntshongwana and today's guest is someone that I'm going to call a friend because I can DM him and it's nothing dodgy. But he is a singer-songwriter, guitarist and pianist. Someone who's traveled the world over 31 cities with his music, gracing international stages in the US as well as Canada. An ambassador for the Nelson Mandela 46664 Foundation, as well as being a father and in the mix of course, some nominations for the South African Music Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, I'm going to call you my friend. Is that okay?
Yes,
Clegg.
of course. Hey, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
So good to have you. I love that when I mentioned to everyone your name, because early on I was just saying Jesse, and then when I said Johnny Clegg, everyone's like, Jesse, as in Johnny Clegg's son. Yes, as in Johnny Clegg's son.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that and start off with your early years as the son of a rock star, someone who was part of our history, pre and post-apartheid. Your father was a legend, a South African icon. What was it like being the son of Johnny Clegg, especially from a young age? When did it dawn on you that actually my dad is a rock star? When was that moment for you?
I think, when you're growing up in it, you just assume that that's kind of how everyone's parents are. You don't actually realize how unusual your upbringing is. And so I think for my early years, I spent the first 6 years of my life in hotel rooms and airports and backstage at shows. And it was just this whirlwind of music and different countries and people and just being exposed to so much from such an early age. It was really a wonderful experience. I mean, those are such happy memories for me.
Sure.
And obviously there was also the other side of it, which was my dad was away a lot. So there would be months at a time where he would be out of town, and that was difficult. And I think that, just growing up in it and being so immersed in music was something that was incredibly inspiring for me to go into music myself, but also was something that taught me about discipline and taught me what it takes to be an artist, what it takes to be a career musician, the discipline and the unglamorous side of it.
Sure.
It's hard to say what it was like because for me it was all I knew.
So you can't compare it to anything.
Yeah, but my memories were really quite amazing. And I just remember, seeing my dad on stage and watching other bands on stage, watching a lot of world music, a lot of African music. It was just this beautiful whirlwind of art and culture.
How was your father as a father to you? What are some of the things that you remember? Was he strict? Or was he just like, do your thing, just enjoy life and be a good person? What was he like as a father to you guys?
I had a very close relationship with my father. We were really, really, we had a deep bond. And he was strict in some regards, and he held us to a high standard. You always knew that he was going to be honest with you. He never sugarcoated it. And if you wanted his approval, he would tell you what he thought, for better or worse.
Wow, really?
Yeah, which I actually really appreciated because when he praised you, you really knew it was coming from a genuine place. It wasn't just dad, just giving you the pat on the back. It was really like, you did something special here. And that was great. And, especially when I started making my own music, I remember playing my dad my first few demos and being so nervous. And I think when he heard them and I could see he was impressed, for me, that was such a huge confidence boost because I knew that he would never lie to me about something that important. And I think that he was strict, but he was very fair, and he was very honest. He was vulnerable with us, me and my brother. I think that when you have a celebrity in the family, there's this instinct to put this person up on a pedestal, and it becomes like this ivory tower, and you just look up to this person. And my dad never wanted that. He wanted us to see him as a person with all his own flaws and all his own insecurities. So he was very vulnerable and real with us, which was amazing.
Geez, that's quite interesting to learn, because we definitely received him as one of the most humble and just part of the people as well. I need to ask you what it was like for you and your family, because I don't think we have an idea of this. Because of your dad's status in the country and being so involved in the movement and becoming almost an iconic figure within, the South African freedom movement, what was it like for you guys as a family navigating your way in South Africa and maybe even internationally as icons of the struggle to some extent?
I mean, I think my dad was he navigated those waters very consciously, and he never wanted to be someone who was overtly political. He was always about art. He was all about music and what music could bring to the conversation, how it could cross cultural, racial, political boundaries, and how that was actually the key to bringing people together. It's like in South Africa, we have music and sports, and these are things that unite us and make us feel proud South Africans,
Sure.
And I think my dad knew that. And so he never wanted to be seen as a politician or to, lend his voice to a party or any specific movement. And I think that was a very important decision because, he always separated himself from the direct political madness of the situation. But that said, he was deeply knowledgeable. He gave me a real grounding and a history of South Africa and the complexity and nuances of this amazing country that we live in, which I was very grateful for. And, I spent a lot of time with Sipho and his family. Our family and Sipho's family were, we like one family. I saw a lot of family members, like extended family members, go through all kinds of political chaos during the early 90s. I mean, my dad's one of his best friends, Dudu, who he danced with, was assassinated. And so, I was very young, but I do have these like memories that are like these emotional sort of high points in my early childhood that I could just remember these things that we went through. And it was profound, and it really gave me, a deeper understanding of where we come from. Because I'm obviously of the age that I don't have living memory of apartheid. I was born just at the tail end, but just seeing my dad and seeing my family go through that was just so educational, I guess.
When your father died, I honestly felt a piece of our country, and I'm sure obviously for you it was even bigger, but it was just like a part of our history had, been taken away, and just someone with so much light and positivity. I think I did get to meet him once or twice when he came through to the studio at 5, and still the most humble, kind, sweet. You would never say that was like the Johnny Clegg, because even some of the photos you see of him just like performing, you're just like, he had a level of stardom to him that was just incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I certainly miss him a lot.
For sure. Let's talk about what you were like at school. Did you actually go to Crawford from like grade 0, grade 0? What? Do you know that when we were at school, I tell everyone this because I remember when Crawford became a thing. It's like one of my memories. So you went to Crawford from grade 0?
Yeah, I was like an early Crawfordian, an early adopter.
That is amazing. So what was Crawford like? I mean, tell us the truth, because we have ideas of what that school was like, but we don't actually know.
I don't know what the ideas might be. I mean, I don't know what the perception is, but I enjoyed Crawford. I think that when I got to high school and I started doing music, and I felt that like I had like a little community. I didn't play like a lot of sports or any of that stuff. I was like in the music department playing guitar and talking about music and listening to music with the other students. And I just loved that there was like enough support for the creative side of students, like people who weren't doing sports, that, we felt like we could have our little community and have our little gang, which was great. And I did my first ever live performance at Assembly in Crawford.
Wow.
And I mean, it was my experience of it was pretty positive. I mean, I was really just into music, so that was my experience.
That is so incredible. And you got 6 distinctions. So how do you tell us that you are so into your music? You're also into your academics as well, sure?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, I was really not a good student.
And so how did you know you're lying? How did you get
I wasn't a good student up until about grade 10.
Okay.
And then like I realized like actually I need to like start passing some tests and my dad was also quite into his academia. You know, my dad was a lecturer at WITS for 10 years. So he instilled some sort of baseline kind of respect for like the ability to like, you know, take in information and be able to apply it. And I think like as I matured, I started to enjoy that more, and I started to enjoy reading a bit. And like I loved like history and English and art and, you know, those kinds of subjects where it was like more storytelling, and it was like there was something that was interesting about you know, society, or it was like something studying like a moment in time in another country. Like for me, that was far more interesting than maths or science.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I just managed to get those distinctions. It's a very nerdy fact about me. I didn't know we were going to bring that up.
And also, so then did you think at that moment that you were going to get 6 distinctions? I don't know how you just arrive at 6 distinctions.
I mean, I studied hard.
Was
like
it
by the
IEB?
time I think so, yeah. I mean, I studied really hard for matric. Like it was a really stressful year.
I can imagine.
Like I did want to do well. By the time I got to matric, I was like, let me actually try and, you know, put my head down and really nail this. And then I went and did a law degree at WITS and an honors degree in literature. And, you know, my folks were just like, you can do music, but you have to get a degree.
Sure.
So I kind of did both for a few years.
Your parents were black.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it out. Actually, so tell us when the music kind of took over the studying, because you mentioned now an honors degree in literature.
Yeah.
So at what stage were you like, actually, I've got to get onto stage and start performing and doing this music thing professionally?
I mean, it was pretty much concurrent for quite a long time. I was doing a BA law degree at WITS when my first album came out. I was in second year, and that album went platinum. Like completely unexpectedly. Like I was literally just writing songs in my bedroom and doing my law degree basically. Wow. And then that album, I got signed to a label with basically the demos of that album.
Wow.
And they got released and it did really well. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can be a musician.
What do you mean?
Like I was, you know, it didn't feel intentional. I don't know. I was just following my passion and following things that I really enjoyed. Which obviously was music, and also, you know, I was doing philosophy and politics, and you know, I was in an academic world mostly.
Sure.
And then when the first single dropped and it suddenly started charting, it was a wonderful experience, and I started performing, and I literally toured and did my law degree at the same time for like 5 years.
And I'm sure you aced the law degree as well.
I mean, I finished it and I haven't done my articles. Like I wouldn't be able to technically practice law right now.
Sure.
But I will say one thing, like being able to read a contract in the music industry has been very useful. Yeah.
A lot of people that I've actually interviewed, and some of my friends are also, you know, people that have dabbled in a bit of law. They also went to WITS and to other institutions. What is it about law specifically that draws you guys to this particular degree? What do you love about it? Because there's a lot of reading and there's a lot of interpretation. So what did you love about law?
I really loved the idea that, you know, the way that law is structured, it's basically the underlying rules that make our society what it is. And all the great politicians, Mandela, for example, all the great change makers often start with law. You know, they learn the system, they learn how the system works, because whatever societal change you want, it has to start at law. You know, if you change the rules of how the game is played, that's how real change happens.
Sure.
So I just thought that it just had this beautiful potential to have a positive impact on society, and that's what I loved. So I loved constitutional law because it really is the foundation. And I enjoyed the interpretations, and there's some incredible cases that I just found that really inspiring. I mean, I'm glad I'm a musician and not a lawyer, because I think that's a very idealistic view of law. But, you know, the reality is, you know, a lot of the time you're dealing with divorce, or you're dealing with companies and stuff like that. So I think that my ideal of what I would do within law would be probably more around like ethics and constitutional debates, and how we can have a positive impact on society rather than like solvency law or like divorce law.
I'm learning so much just about who you are and about law in this moment. I'm soaking it all up. I love it. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And to hear your passion just coming through is quite, a side of you that I didn't expect.
Okay, well, thank you.
It's quite awesome. So I like to talk about musical influences because your sound has evolved so much. And there's also like, I don't know if I can call it a waning or just an adoption of different sounds that I've heard in your music throughout your career. What were your influences, and has your sound evolved versus what you thought you were going to be music-wise, when you started to where you are now? What kind of music did you think you were actually going to make versus what we hear today?
It's so difficult to say. I mean, when I started out, I was really a singer-songwriter. I sat with my acoustic guitar and I wrote songs in my bedroom. That's how I started. So I was really into folk music and more of like rock, like more guitar-based rock stuff. Singer-songwriters like Bob Dylan and Neil Young, and like all the really classic kind of guitar-based music. And that's how I started. I learned to play guitar, playing those songs. And, and so that's really where my beginnings were. I was a singer-songwriter and I was a guitarist. And now, I've done those albums, and I find myself far more in like the production world. I listen to a lot of hip-hop. I listen to a lot of urban, R&B, and I enjoy kind of dabbling in different genres now. I'm much more open to more production-based writing, like going into studio and finding beats and then writing top lines over beats, and like. So I think technology has also changed. Like in the last 5-10 years, what you have access to as a songwriter. In terms of the creative tools has also changed. So I've just enjoyed that sort of process of adapting to new genres and new styles and like new technology that's come out. So I think I started out as like a really traditional songwriter, and now I'm into production and studio-based songwriting, and I've done some co-writing. I've written for other artists. So yeah, I really enjoy sort of the whole sort of plethora of writing now. I think I've diversified a bit.
I love that you've diversified. My question now is going to be whether your audience has moved with you, or if you lost some people along the way, because the genres that you're mentioning aren't genres that typically would suit you, but because of the nature of music and just being an artist, I understand that the more you're exposed to R&B, hip hop, other genres of music, the better you are as a musician. So was that a conscious effort to kind of, diversify who you were as a person and as an artist, or did you just fall into it and think, actually, why not?
I don't know. I think that as an artist, you're kind of on this creative journey. You never really get to your destination. It's really just about the journey. And I follow what inspires me and what excites me. I'm someone that I really have to be genuinely connected to a concept for me to delve into it creatively. And this sort of process of trying things and exploring different genres has really just been me enjoying making music. Just being creative, and I have to follow my creative muse. Otherwise I'm not being honest. And I think I've been very fortunate that I've had a lot of radio support on, throughout my career, and I feel like people have followed me. I think that when I first started, there were so many preconceptions about what kind of music I should make.
You really thought you were going to take us back.
Yeah, and I think people were very disappointed that I wasn't Zulu dancing or. And
I think our generation was cool with it. Everyone else was like, but you're Johnny Clegg's son.
I know. And now, I've been going for a while, and I think people have accepted me for who I am. And it's taken time. And, part of that process was me just being very disciplined with myself, saying like, I need to trust myself. I have to trust my instinct. And if this is where I feel I need to go, I need to listen to my own creative muse and follow that. So it's been a process. And I have really great mentors that have kind of helped me shape my own path. And Roddy Quinn, my manager, is really one of them.
I was about to ask who your mentors are. How is Roddy, and what has Roddy done for you? I know he was managing your stage performances at some stage.
Yeah, he's my manager. Roddy's my manager.
The one time I got to go to Crawford was to introduce you at a gig.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, Roddy's been my manager since the beginning. He worked with my dad for many years. He's the owner of Real Concerts.
Yes.
So they do big international productions as well. But he's just someone who believed in me from day one.
Yeah.
And always said like, I need to walk my own path, like be my own man. Obviously, my dad was a huge mentor as well. And my dad also supported me in that way. But I think it takes someone outside your family to just give you some perspective sometimes. And he's just been a wonderful influence on me in terms of just making the right decisions, just guiding your path. A career is just a series of decisions that you end up making. And sometimes you make the right one and sometimes you make the wrong one. And to have a solid foundation where you can filter information through people that you trust and have a decision-making process that's solid with a bigger picture in mind. I think that has been something that's really helped me.
What have been some of those decisions for you where you felt actually the reason I am where I am is because I decided and this is the choice that I made? What have those decisions been for you?
I think the biggest one that was very important in the beginning was to basically not use my dad's name or to do anything with my dad on stage. Like I never appeared in photographs with him. Like we literally kept our careers completely separate. Which was really hard, for the first few years. I mean, I remember when my album went gold, and we had a little celebratory party, and we had like friends and family and some media, and it was just like I was 21 years old, and my dad couldn't be at that because Roddy was like, it's important that we separate these two careers, and this is something that has to be specifically focused on what you're doing. And, there was just those strange moments where my dad couldn't be at something that I would have loved him to be and celebrated with him. But I think that in retrospect, it was important for me to find my own way and to define myself. And then, 2016, 2017, when my dad announced his farewell tour, at that point, it was a very different situation. And there I could be like, okay, it's my dad's last tour. I'm going to join him on stage and we're going to go into studio together and we're going to actually do the thing that we've been wanting to do for so long. And that was also like a beautiful moment because it'd been building up for so long. And, so just those kinds of like things where, I mean, obviously, Roddy's helped me with decisions about, music videos and concepts and stuff like that. But I think just from a macro perspective, just to find my confidence, find my identity, and define myself. I think that has been a really important thing.
I'm going to ask about the farewell tour, man, because that's a moment as South Africans that we obviously have to hold on to, and I'm sure you hold on to as well.
Yeah.
What was that like, especially in retrospect with everything that has happened with his passing? What was that like?
I mean, that was just, I think it was one of the most beautiful, intense experiences in music that I've ever had in my life. As I said, like me and my dad hadn't done anything together up until that point. And when we announced that we were going to do the tour and it was my dad's final tour, it was just such a profound and emotional outpouring. We went around the world. We did 60 something shows, and these were between his chemo sessions. So he was already ill at that point, and he was such a warrior. He was such a soldier. It was incredible. He really wanted to do these shows. He wanted to have a send off. He wanted to celebrate, and every single show we played, whether it was in Cape Town or Dubai or Washington, like we went everywhere. every single show was the last show he would ever play in that city, and everyone knew it. So it was just this incredible outpouring of, I mean, it was laughter and tears and joy and sorrow, and I mean, it was just such a mixed bag every single night. It was such a intense emotional experience. And yeah, I think I'm just so grateful that we got to have that experience together, you know, because it was like beyond the shows and beyond what it meant for people and for us, it was also just a wonderful time together with my dad. You know, I got to spend, you know, 6 months on the road together, and it just felt like this sort of father-son road trip around the world, you know, and we had so many good times, so many beautiful memories together, you know, walking down the streets of Montreal, or, you know, hanging out in France, or in, you know, like Zimbabwe. We were in Zimbabwe, you know, all over South Africa, all over America, just being together and just, you know, just reflecting. You know, we knew that our time was limited.
Sure.
And it's amazing what that realization does to a relationship. You know, you suddenly get this perspective and you can reflect together and just be real with each other.
Let's talk about your emotional growth and your musical growth from your first album to where you are now. What has that been like for you, just navigating that space? Because a lot of your music and you as an artist is obviously who you are emotionally and what you're going through, or what you're feeling and sensing the world is going through. What have been some of the ebbs and flows of your emotional journey while writing music and making music?
I mean, I think that it's, you know, I think when I started out, you know, you can really become quite emotionally invested in the outcome of a song or of a project or a concept. And it took me a long time to actually divorce myself from that. You know, I think that you have to enjoy the process as a creative. You know, it's a very personal thing. You're making yourself vulnerable. It's a very deep thing. And if you put something out in the world and it doesn't do what you think it's going to do, it can be heartbreaking. Like really, you actually feel like you've broken up with someone that you love, you know. So I think at the beginning, I had to learn those lessons. And at this point now, I'm able to enjoy music and enjoy the outlet that music brings me emotionally. You know, there's something so cathartic. It's a kind of therapy to be able to express yourself, even if no one hears it. Just to be able to put your thoughts into words and into music is a very healthy thing.
Sure.
And to have that means of expression has been a very helpful thing for me. You know, whenever I go through any kind of emotional trauma or difficult moment, I go and I write music, and it brings me back to myself. It gives me perspective. So I'm grateful that I have that in my life.
So you've toured internationally as well, independent of your father. What was that like? Also very early in your career as well, you were gracing international stages.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of stuff overseas. In fact, my whole new album I've just done in LA. I've been there for the last.
What is happening with LA and South African musicians? Msaki was there the other day.
Yeah. I've actually seen more South African musicians in LA than I do in Joburg.
See, there's something happening in
it's
LA.
So funny. I remember I did a session with Black Coffee in LA like a year and a half ago, and I was like, dude, we live like 10 minutes away from each other and I have to run into you in LA to like, it's just so funny.
That is so cool.
But yeah, so I've been doing a lot of stuff in the States now. But I performed in the UK. I've done a lot of international shows. And you know, I think that it's important, I think, to step out of your comfort zone. I think it's important to be in a bigger context, a bigger industry where you have to really bring your A game. You know, it's like it's an equalizer. You know, no one knows who you are, and they're just hearing you for your music, and they're hearing you for your vibe and everything. And I think for me, especially on the creative side, like especially with songwriting, to go into a studio with, you know, producers that I really respect, that I know have made like some of the most brilliant international music that I've heard, to go into studio with those guys really ups your game. You know, you have to come in there knowing that you have one shot and you have to impress these people, and this is it, you know. And I think that for me to not you know, to keep pushing my own limits and to keep expanding my horizons and pushing my boundaries, I've really just tried to expose myself to as much of that as possible, So I just said to myself, the next album I'm doing completely overseas. I'm going to go and write overseas. I'm going to work with producers, work with songwriters on that side, and just see where it goes. And it's been a wonderful experience. Like, I really feel like my musical boundaries have really expanded. Like, I've gotten to work with guys that have taken me to places that I would never have gone, I think, by myself, and that's the beauty of music. It is such a collaborative thing.
Sure.
And there's that chemistry in the room that can just take you on a whole new sort of adventure, which I love.
So what do you think is special then about, what do you love about yourself and the way that you approach music and make music that is basically putting you on a different level when you get overseas and when you get to LA? What are people hearing? Maybe it's even something on a professional level, just who you are. What are people receiving about you that you're feeling is resonating?
I don't know. I mean, I think that my skill set is songwriting. I think that I'm like, I think I'm good with coming up with concepts. I'm good with melody. I feel like I'm a good vocalist. And I mean, I like, it's taken a long time.
Sure.
But I've focused on my vocals, and I've focused on bringing as much genuine emotion to whatever we're doing. That's why I always say, like, I have to be personally connected to something, for me to really to feel creative and for me to really dive in, it has to come from a genuine place. And I think that that's been something that's kind of kept me going for a long time. I think that when I work with people in studio, I really want to have a conversation and reach out and say, like, what are we trying to write about? Let's talk about life. Like, where are we coming from today? Like, what is our message? What's the song about? And I think that just holding myself to that standard has been really good.
Collaborating, you've worked with so many people, so many South African artists, international artists as well. I am obsessed, and maybe more so even after COVID, with your song with Ntshongwana.
Yeah.
Breathing. And you know what's crazy is that I loved the song before COVID, but it meant something even more special to me during COVID because it was literally about breathing.
Yeah,
and the lyrics, I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I'm listening to every single word and I'm feeling it emotionally.
Yeah.
And before I used to listen to it and I'd rock out, and now I'm just like breathing. So it gave new meaning to the song for me. But you mentioned vocals and working on your vocals before. What do you do? And this is a question that I haven't asked artists, but I often wonder about. When you get into a space where you're not necessarily the vocal match to the person you're in the space with, how do you meet them where they are?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that I don't see music in those terms. I don't see it as like, oh, well, you can hit that note and I can only hit that. Like,
sure.
For me, that's not interesting. What's most interesting is like, what is this voice bringing emotionally to the story of the song? Like there's a narrative, there's a message and a story that we're trying to tell. And you can be a very mediocre singer, but actually sing that song with so much heart that even the best singer in the industry wouldn't be able to match the emotional quality of what you bring. And that, I think, is like a really important point, I think, for songwriters to know that it's not about like how you can shred on guitar or how many scales you can play on piano or how high your note is. Like, it really is about you and your story and how much truth you can bring to your art and what you can talk about in life that people can relate to and they can like find a connection with you. It's all about connection. And so, I just don't see music in terms of like, this is a hierarchy of skill.
Sure.
For me, it's just like, what's real? What's vibing? What is connecting me to this song or this person or this story?
What are you most proud of musically from what you've been able to achieve?
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, I've got like highlights that I always look back on and am proud of. I mean, I think that playing at Radio City Music Hall for the Mandela Day concert with Stevie Wonder and some of those incredible artists that were on, Alicia Keys and There was just, the lineup on that thing was incredible.
Yeah.
I did Isle of Wight Festival in the UK, which was also just an amazing lineup of artists. Yeah, it was like Kings of Leon, Red Hot Chili Peppers, just every rock band. Like my younger self was just like going crazy. I think that, I've had some sessions recently in LA with producers that like, I can't believe I'm in the same room as these people, and we've written a song together and we both love it, like those moments where you're challenged and you have to step up and then you manage to meet that challenge is always a great feeling. And, I think, as I said, like, it's important to not get seduced by that too much as well. Like, you can't only be like, okay, well, what milestones am I hitting and how much money am I making? Like, you also have to you have to get self-satisfaction from just writing a song, writing a song that you're proud of. Like, that is such a hard thing to do. Like, songwriting is very difficult. And I think that having a way to self-motivate beyond all the glam and all the stuff that happens around you, regardless of whether that happens, I know that I'll always be writing songs and I'll always love music. And that for me is the biggest motivator.
So let's talk about family now. You're married.
I'm not married.
Oh, you're not married?
I'm not.
Why did I think you were married? It says wife on the internet. The internet's lying about you. It says
internet has
like,
lots of information.
Jesse, married. Because the last time I saw you was at Narox. And I don't think you were married then. So I was just like, okay, life is happening to all of us except me. Okay, but you do have a child.
I do, yes.
Oh, thank goodness. The internet is right about something.
It's right about that.
I saw that your child's got an African middle name. Is that right?
Yes, she does, yeah.
See, internet not so yeah. Thank goodness.
Sipo named her.
Really?
Yeah.
Cheapers, are you hearing the stuff that you're telling me? That is such a great connection. How did you even broach that subject? Did you just ask him, hey, will you name my kid?
Yeah, well, I have an African middle name and my brother.
What is your African middle name?
Umpiezwe.
Okay.
And my brother is Busani.
What does it mean?
Umpiezwe means born in the the meaning that was assigned to what the name was in terms of my birth was I was born in 1988, which is a very tumultuous time in South Africa, and so Umpiezwe means born in the time of struggle, born in a time of upheaval. And my brother was born in 95, and Busani is it means eat and be happy. So we have these very opposite names.
Yeah.
And Sipo and Bafazan, who is also a deep friend of my father's from for many decades, but named both of us. And then when my daughter Mila was born, I wanted Sipo to give her middle name, and her name is Tandowetu.
Unbelievable. I love how you've kept the connection with some of your family's friends. And like you mentioned earlier on, they are your family. What's fatherhood teaching you that you never thought you would learn? How fun is it to be the father of a
1-year-old? She turned 1 last week.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been incredible. I was terrified when when my partner Danny told me she was pregnant. I was genuinely terrified. And no one can prepare you. And there's a lot of, I don't know, like I feel like people kind of scare you with parenthood. They like tell you like, oh, you're going to be cleaning up diapers and you're never going to get any sleep and everything. And that stuff is true. I think that you do have to, it's a lifestyle change.
Sure.
But like, I must say, like, I'm not someone who liked kids before I had my kid.
Wait.
But having had my kid, like, I'm like overwhelmed, man.
I love how honest you are. You did not like it. Who doesn't like kids? Like,
I'm not like, if there's a young kid at a party or something, I'm not like hanging out with that kid.
Okay. So you didn't picture yourself as a father, is what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I always wanted to have kids, but I never like hung out with kids. I wasn't like, I didn't consider myself someone who was like loving hanging out with kids.
Making music for the kids.
Yeah. But when I had Mila and like the first year, like it's amazing. Like I think with motherhood, it's such an instant thing, that you've had this life in your body, like, once when you give birth, it's so instant, it's so intense. Fatherhood, I think, is something that you learn and you grow into.
Sure.
And I think first 6 months is such an adjustment, and you're just like, wow, this is incredible. It's so mind-blowing. And then eventually, like now, having been so nervous and being terrified and all this stuff, what no one tells you is what you get from having kids. Like just the incredible journey and like the emotional highs. Like, actually like yesterday she took her first steps.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, I nearly burst into tears. It was just like the incredible like high of just seeing your child like reaching these milestones. It's just like, I've never experienced anything like it. Like it's just amazing. I can't put it into words.
And diaper changing, are you on top of that?
I'm on top of it.
I changed the diaper.
It's not as bad as people think.
No, it's bad.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think you just get used to it.
Oh my gosh.
It's all about technique.
I don't really get... so you have a technique down.
It's about technique. If you don't know what you're doing, you're just gonna get messy. But if you know what you're doing, you just quick fast.
Dude, I can honestly wait after changing my niece's diapers. I'm like, I can wait to have kids.
Okay.
And the patience required. Being a parent is not a joke.
Yeah.
I think we took it for granted when we were kids, but hey, it's a struggle, bro.
Yeah. I think that it's different when it's your kid, though.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you what it's like to go through the pregnancy and the birth and actually like having your mind blown, seeing your own child. That experience, without having that experience, to just try and take care of a kid is very different. But if it's your child and you've gone through that adventure and that journey together, it's pretty amazing. Like you get a lot from it as well.
Sure.
Like people outside just see all the chores and all the logistics of it, but when you're inside, it's actually just like this amazing experience. Like, because you're also getting so much from it.
Yeah.
Like you're getting more than you're giving, actually, in terms of like how this life is shaping you and teaching you, and like the happiness you get from seeing it grow and from seeing your child like, take its first steps or like taste something for the first time. Like it's the first time they're tasting chocolate or ice cream in their life. Like it's crazy.
Oh man, this is so cool to hear you speak about being a father. Do you think it's going to influence how you make music or what kind of music you make?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not very conscious of that. Like, I think that, like anything that you go through in your life as an artist, it always filters through, but you have to let it happen. I don't think you can consciously say, okay, now I'm going to write a song about like, raising children, or I'm going to write a song about like, losing a parent, or, you have to let these things just filter through. So I always try and let it come when the time is right. But I mean, definitely, my life has changed for the better, and I'm really, it's given me an emotional depth that I never had before, which is always great for writing and for making art.
Let's talk about mental health. We had a quick chat off air earlier on because I was trying to check if it was okay with you to chat about mental health. What have you observed in terms of mental health and where we are as society, and maybe even as a musician, what you've observed is happening in the mental health space for people and musicians alike?
Look, I think it's a very important conversation. I'm not a psychologist, but I know that musicians are very sensitive people. I think that it's been a very difficult time for musicians and anyone associated with music, the industry in general. And it's not something that we talk about very often because we're all trying to look as cool as we can. And, we're trying to be, we're trying to promote something, or, it's not a conversation that's easily had. But, I think we've seen a lot of artists commit suicide the last few months. We've seen the trauma that a global pandemic has brought on not only artists, but everyone, to have a brush with our mortality and to suddenly be isolated. These are all things that have such a profound impact. And if you're not aware of it, then you don't realize how much your own sort of mental health and your own sort of headspace has changed, and I think that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be real. It's okay to be sad and depressed. It's okay to experience trauma. And I think that we have to normalize speaking about it in a real way. I mean, for me, I've experienced all kinds of challenges during this COVID time. It was a challenging time, and for me, like one of the most amazing outlets is performing live and connecting through live music, sharing in that musical experience. And to not have that, it did affect my mental health. It was something that I had to really adjust to. It was something that I had to like actually think about, like, wow, this is something that I need psychologically and I don't have it. So it was a shift. And I think that a lot of people had to make similar shifts. And on top of that, people lost loved ones, so.
At such an incredible scale.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think we're all still kind of processing what we've been through, so it's good to be able to share in it. And, it's such a tragedy when you see someone succumb to a negative mental space. And so, yeah, the more we can talk about it, the better, I think.
The more we can provide resources for people. Let's wrap up with talking about what's happening next for Jesse Clegg. I know that you're working on a massive project that is coming into fruition in April of 2022. What is that project? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm doing a really big series of shows at Monte Cassino at the Teatro. It's going to be basically like a celebration of my musical journey up until this point. It's a sort of a retrospective of all my songs and hits. I'm going to be doing some storytelling. We're going to be reimagining some of the music. It's going to be a really beautiful, big production. And I've got some guest artists that are going to be joining me on stage, artists that I've collaborated with, artists that have inspired me.
Please, if Shakana doesn't pitch up for breathing, I'm here.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna say anything yet. But.
And I'm vocally impaired.
Yeah. So, and it's both local and international artists. So it's going to be quite a spectacle, and I feel really excited to be able to kind of just take stock, and to consolidate. And I think after this 2-year period of having no shows, or much curtailed shows. Like it's just wonderful to be able to do something big, to do a spectacle, and to celebrate the journey. And so it's the 22nd and 23rd of April. Tickets are available on CompuTicket, and the show is called Jesse Clegg Here and Now.
I'm so excited for you, and I will be there, whether I'm on stage with you or not.
Hell yeah, you will.
I will be front and center like I was at Narox, like I was at Crawford.
Yes.
Like I have been for you. Jesse Clegg, thank you so much for your time and for your openness. Like I was saying to you, I just love it when people speak and just to hear them tell and give their perspective on life. I think that that's very important, and it's been such a thrill to have you because I've learned so much about you. You're incredibly smart and you're well-rounded, which is actually quite interesting to learn about you as well. Let's wrap up with your biggest lesson in life so far, what you think has served you and continues to serve you as Jesse Clegg.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I guess in my career as a songwriter, I think that the thing that has really served me has just been to bring honesty and truth to my work. Even no matter what I do, I always try to be as truthful to myself as I can, especially in songwriting. And I think we all have that little voice inside of us that tells us when we're not being truthful to ourselves, or when we're betraying ourselves, or we're doing something that is against our values. And for me, I've really tried to listen to that voice throughout my career, and obviously just have discipline, have passion, work hard, all those things, but do it for the right reasons. I think that has been something that's kept me going.
Fantastic. Looking forward to another 20 years of your awesomeness, of your hard work and your passion. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.